Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Danielle here with Shano, sitting in for Tom today, and we are still joined by John Nichols, the national affairs correspondent with The Nation magazine and co-author of the book, People Get Ready. Thank you for hanging out with us, John.
I love hanging out with you.
And for people who want to follow John on Twitter, which you should be doing already, you can find him at Nichols Uprising. Before the break, we mentioned Harriet Tubman, about to, well, a little ways off, but will soon be on the new $20 bill. What are your thoughts, John, on the change?
20s. I'm spending only 20s from here on out. I'm not kidding, man. I love Harriet Tubman is so totally cool. This is an important thing. I mean, the woman rocked.
Yes.
And first off, getting rid of Andrew Jackson, let's just say this is cause for celebration.
Oh, yes. I'm a South Florida native, and so obviously there's a lot of education there about Native Americans, specifically Cherokee, which is big in the area. So, Trail of Tears stories are taught from kindergarten up, and just so. Yeah. So getting him off of the $20 bill is almost, for me, an equal cause of celebration.
Yeah, and rightly so. We shouldn't be mean people that only celebrate Andrew Jackson's, being forced relocation of the $20 bill. But we should recognize that Jackson really did play a horrible politics in his time. There were things that people could find that they liked about the guy. That sometimes he took on some of the elites, but he did it in the worst of all possible ways. And some of the things that he did really linger to this day as harms to a lot of what we should want for our country.
Yeah.
Now with Harriet Tubman, this is the fascinating thing. People know her for her basic story, which is so absolutely incredible. That of the slave who got free and then courageously went back again and again and again to free more slaves to lead them toward the North Star. But what's important to understand is that her opposition to slavery, her opposition to the original sin of the American experiment, this acceptance of human bondage, was so great that even when she got her freedom, and even when she got others to freedom, as the Civil War began, she then became a Union spy. Mm-hmm. She went back into these areas where she, risking her life, risking everything, again and again and again. Now, after the Civil War, she was Wisconsin Republicans, who honored her greatly for her struggles, proposed in Congress that she be given a small stipend, a small amount of money in payment, because she was never paid for what she did.
Wow.
Because she was living, after the war ended, she lived in relative poverty. And what happened, tragically, was the Congress rejected that proposal. They did not honor her. So this is an important thing to understand. This amazing woman was not honored at the point when she should have been honored. And instead of, instead of giving her what she deserved, she just went on and she lived in upstate New York. Now, what's incredible about her, though, is she lived forever. She
Yes.
lived to the age of 91. And she didn't rest on her laurels. As an old woman, as a very old woman, she became deeply involved in the suffrage movement, and she was one of the chief advocates, one of the many important advocates for rights to vote for women. She was doing this not in the 1870s or the 1880s, but in the 1910s. She lived so long and was so much a part of so many vital struggles in this country. So with Harriet Tubman, I hope I'm not too much on my soapbox here, but here we have somebody who linked the struggle against human bondage with the struggle to make real the promise of the American experiment by bringing the more than half of Americans who were denied voting rights at the founding of this country into the political process. I mean, who better could you put on a $20 bill than Harriet Tubman?
I absolutely concur. I started reading more about her history and her background more than I was familiar with in preparation for this show. And I couldn't believe all the interesting information about her that most people aren't aware of, including, all of these points that she fought for and everything she worked for throughout her life started when she was just a child. They think between 12 and 14 years old, when she stood up for a slave that had gotten free and was then captured. And she was abused by the plantation owner with a 2-pound weight and suffered from narcolepsy for the rest of her life. So everything she, imagine this, suffrage fighter, Underground Railroad, everything dealing with headaches, severe migraines, and narcolepsy. Like, it's just amazing.
Plenty of excuses to slow down, to stand down. Do you know what she did in old age? She had very little money, and she really struggled financially. And yet, even as she struggled financially, she adopted children. I mean, she was this amazing figure. But when she finally got a little bit of money, you know what she did? She gave it to a community to create a home for impoverished older women. She gave her money away, and then at the end of the day, she barely had the money to make it out herself. And there's something in her journey and in her story that suggests this rare combination of great strength and yet incredible generosity.
Yeah, selflessness.
That's not always common.
It's not. And, today there's so many issues that we need to fight for, and they seem insurmountable. They seem, look at the climate change issue. I can only imagine how insurmountable fighting slavery seemed at the days that she started fighting against this cause. But she did it anyway. She did it despite everything in her path, without pause, without falter, and it's so inspirational. I'm thrilled that she finally has a place in our national currency.
Pretty cool thing, isn't it?
It is. I'm so glad we got to talk about this today, John. Thank you so much, as always. I just love talking to you.
It's a total pleasure.
John Nichols, everybody, national correspondent with The Nation magazine, and his book, People Get Ready. Go and check it out today.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.